So the person I have in front of me today is a government official, doctor, and the founder of Ladybox Project. Did I miss anything?
Mummy.
Yes, mommy, wife.
I think that's job number one. If you're distracted, if you're being pulled in too many different directions and there's a lot of noise around you, you find it very, very difficult to be creative or to be productive if you're too busy. You can't do anything that well when you're caught up in busyness. With somebody like me who presents how I present, you always dress well, and the truth is behind the scenes, it is very, very difficult. That I had 3 consecutive miscarriages before I had a successful delivery. My faith is probably what has kept me here. Let God lead. That's what the hard stuff does. It brings you to your knees. It humbles you. Yeah, you're not fake. You're not plastic. You're a real person with a beating heart. You feel things just like everybody else does. A lot of us in public life haven't allowed people in to our real lives. So we put certain things out there and people only get to know us on that level. I had to learn, because I think initially during the darkest parts of what I went through last year, when you start to sink into almost despair, the immediate reaction is to close yourself off, to wall yourself off, and to keep people out. No one wins. You don't win in that situation. People who could potentially benefit from your gifts won't benefit if you close yourself off.
Welcome to Gems from Friends. This is a podcast where we'll be having conversations with entrepreneurs, creators, and young professionals, collecting stories of brands and people. Hopefully we can motivate and inspire, and maybe even ignite the fire for others to start their own projects. I hope you enjoy this episode. Stay tuned. On this episode of Gems from Friends, we welcome Senator Dr. Crystal Haynes. All right, so thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So the person I have in front of me today is a government official, doctor, and the founder of Ladybox Project.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Mummy.
Yes, mommy, wife.
I think that's job number one. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming. I want people to know that my first Gems from Friends episode was 2019. And you were my first person. You trusted me. When I look back at the video, my quality was not really that great.
I remember us literally sitting in my office.
Yes.
The irony is I had just opened my office in Holetown, February 2019. This week is 5 years since I opened that practice.
Really?
Yep. Wow. And yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like, I know it's a new season.
Divine.
I know it's a new season of this show. It's a new season for me too, so.
And it just worked out that, this is, as you said, is a new season. And I said, like, the person that I need to have on here to begin with is you, because you were my first person that you trusted me. I didn't had any work out there as yet. And I called you and you give me a chance.
Yeah, I was like, let's go.
And here we are.
Yeah. It's funny because today almost didn't happen.
Yep. As I said,
call this morning, I was like, I don't ever want to do this, but I am so happy I came.
Can you tell me what emotions you were feeling this morning?
It's weird. Like, life has just been so unsettled for the last few months, and definitely a mixed bag.
Okay.
Lots of hard stuff, but at the same time, I've been discovering a strength and a depth that I didn't know that I had.
Right.
And I think it's these really, really hard moments that you're kind of really forced to get quiet with yourself and to dig a lot deeper than you might have before.
Right.
But still at the same time, I'm kind of still in the tunnel, but starting to see the first glimmers of light and starting to feel really, really hopeful. And it just feels almost poetic sitting here with you.
Yeah.
Knowing that we were at beginnings in our respective journeys in a sense. You with Gems from Friends and me with my own practice at that time. And now here again at a new season for both of us, kind
Here
of
again.
sitting down to chat.
Yeah, and on my ends, I would say that I have been through a roller coaster since we last sit down.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot happened between 2019 and now with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so much changing and pivoting and stuff that we had to do. And I only started back shooting this series like last year, 2023. And all that time, I just kind of put it on the back burner. But it has something that it kept picking at me all the time. I said, Matthew, you got to continue. You got to do it. You can't stop. You got to keep going.
Yeah, I think when you go through the hard stuff, you almost have these existential moments where you start examining, why was I doing this? Should I still be doing this?
Yeah.
And it's only after you get quiet and you kind of dissect through all of the fluff and you really get quiet and then you really settle with yourself. You say, no, I need to pick this back up. This was good. This was meaningful. This was impacting
Definitely
lives, So, yeah.
Yeah. And when I first started, I didn't really get as much feedback, I guess it was new. And a part of it is because the quality was a little amateurish in the beginning. But now I started back because I gained a little bit more skills, a little bit more knowledge and so on. And I get a little bit more experience. So then I started back and then the feedback is definitely coming. It's definitely there. The followers are building. And so here we are now.
Yeah. I have to say, just being here on set, I walked through the door. Your team is amazing. And I just instantly felt lighter and like I just felt relaxed and safe. So thanks for creating a space where I could feel comfortable to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage, I'm sharing this because I want to encourage other people to keep going. Even if you pause, just don't stop. It's okay to pause and reset and refocus, but just keep going because when you come back again, it's like 10 times fold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's in the quiet moments during the pauses, that's where the ideas and the first off, when you get quiet, you examine your motivations for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
When you get quiet, I think that's where the ideas and the genius and the new concepts, the new direction, all of that really comes in quiet moments. If you're distracted, if you're being pulled in too many different directions and there's a lot of noise around you, you find it very, very difficult to be creative or to be productive if you're too busy. You can't do anything that well when you're caught up in busyness. That's one thing I've learned in being a busy person. And
in today's world, it's almost impossible not to be distracted because everything is being created to distract us and pull our focus. And I think attention is going to be the number one asset because there's so much things, especially with, devices and so on. And I guess you're right. I think that I had this time when we had like the pandemic where everything kind of quiet down a bit. We were told to stay put. You had no choice but to face the music and look at your mess.
The facts, straight facts.
Hey everyone, before we jump back into the conversation, I want to take this moment to talk about our sponsor for this episode, GibbsDirect.com. As a business owner, time is precious. I don't have time to be driving around searching for products, especially supplements that support my active lifestyle. That's where GibbsDirect.com comes in. It's an online store based here in Barbados, and let me tell you, their user-friendly website makes it real easy for me to find what I want, add it to my virtual shopping cart, and place my order. I can then go and pick up my items at their convenient pickup location, usually the same day. If I spend $300 and over, I get free delivery to my house. And here's the best part, our listeners get access to a special discount today. Just type the word GEMS as your promo code at the checkout to unlock your savings. So whether you are a busy entrepreneur like me or just looking for convenience and quality products, be sure to check out GibbsDirect.com. Now let's get back to the conversation. So I want to talk about what have changed for you since we last sat down, because you were a new mommy at the time.
Right.
And I think his name is Alex.
Alexander.
Alexander.
Yes.
And he was 5 months old at the time.
He's 6 years old now. So
Oh wow. I would like back these pandemic years.
listen to me. Listen. We need to reclaim our time.
It's just a blur.
Yeah, he's 6 now. He was 5 years when I met you on Gems from Friends. So yeah, a lot has happened. He's grown up into a warm, loving, happy little boy. We found out at about 2.5, heading into 3 years old, that he had autism spectrum disorder,
Okay.
which is a condition that's becoming increasingly more prevalent, disproportionately impacting boys. And typically the challenges are related to speech, socialization, communication, interpersonal skills. But typically, many of them still are intellectually normal, but we are still living in a context where many of our schools and daycares haven't yet adapted to support the kids. There are efforts underway, but we as parents, we've really tried our best to make sure that we could put as much as possible in place to support him. So we found great therapists.
Okay.
I have to big up his pediatrician because she was the first one to give us the guidance we needed to navigate those earlier years where we weren't sure. We were noticing that he wasn't progressing like his peers.
Okay.
So she kind of flagged it. And although he was too young to get the formal assessment done that would tell us distinctively that this was the case, she advised us to go on to get therapy for speech. So he's been seeing Sharika Bentham, big up Sharika from Easy Speak. She's been on the ball early o'clock. And what we had noticed at about 2.5 was a significant regression in his language skills. So he was developing speech and language normally up to a point, and then it's almost like he lost his words and was relying almost exclusively on gestures.
Okay.
So that was hard.
Could imagine.
Because it was then a situation where we were trying to figure out, okay, how much of this will he regain? Will he be able to speak again? All of that. And then obviously a child who's having challenges expressing themselves with words and relying on gestures, overwhelmingly, even though you're a loving parent, you misunderstand or misread certain things, and then the frustration starts to come across. So that's where the behaviors, the tantrums, the acting out comes in. So then we had to recruit behavior therapy, So it definitely has been a journey with him. But I have to say, we have been fortunate to, first of all, understand, recognize. I'm a medical professional myself, so I had that underlying background of knowledge in terms of what the developmental milestones should be and where he might not have been progressing in a certain way. Being a doctor as well, I know who to call. So there's a level of, privilege that I understand that I had in the situation that a lot of parents who might have autistic kids might not have had. But all in all, I will say he's done really, really well. He's loving, he's happy. He's in a mainstream school now.
Okay.
And for a lot of his years, he's had a teacher's aide supporting him. And this is his first term where he doesn't have an aide supporting him in the classroom. So I am really, really,
so it's progress.
Really, really proud of how he's progressing. So, yeah.
But how about you? How have you been able to navigate this? Because having a child and balancing your position in Parliament and your business and your profession, and then still being a wife, and then to have a challenge, a little bit of roadblock, let me say, how is that for you? How you're navigating through that?
The truth is, I think with somebody like me who presents how I present, you always dress well, and, the truth is behind the scenes, it's very, very difficult. There's a lot happening. parenting is a full-time job in itself, and certainly parenting a child with special needs could be a full-time job in itself. The demands are tremendous, but you have to do what you have to do, and the responsibilities that I have outside of the home are significant as well, and they demand my full attention as well. So it can feel very overwhelming. I'm not even going to try to hide that. It's a lot.
You know what I admire? I have to give women in general their flowers, because what they have to go through, and they're able to do it in heels. and still keep fashion up and still look the part, and I must say, you present yourself very well. You're always well dressed. I know your fashion.
The truth is, I enjoy fashion, and I think dressing up is I do it for me.
Okay.
I feel happy, and I actually feel like I am more productive in a sense when I feel like, okay, I can control how I look and how I present, and I'm going to do this for myself, and I'm going to, in spite of, I might not have slept because I've been working on a speech or working on something for work, or I've been studying as well recently. So some nights, it's only after my son goes to bed, then you got to get in and put in those hours. So I feel like it's a form of respect for myself and for my patients and everyone around me to just show up and to present well. And it makes me feel more awake.
Right. And there's one thing that you can control.
Yes.
When everything else is just going not according to plan or how you see it in your head, like your fashion is. And
I truly enjoy fashion and makeup. New York Fashion Week just wrapped up. London Fashion Week is about to start. Where can I watch the shows? It's just a great diversion for me. Everybody has their thing, their little form of escape. And I think fashion is just something I've always enjoyed, and I will not give it up.
Great. I know you inspire a lot of others.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell me what is your position in Parliament? For people that don't understand what is a senator, and what do you do?
Right. So the Senate is a separate and distinct house from the House of Assembly. So we have what we call a bicameral parliament. So there are two different chambers. The elected chamber is the one that most people are familiar with. We call it the House of Assembly, and that's where the MP sit. So basically, they would have constituents that they represent and so on. The Senate is a bit different. The Senate is a selected chamber. So we are, at this time, not select. We are not voted for.
Okay.
We are selected and appointed. And our role is to vet and then vote on legislation. Okay. So the policymakers sit in the cabinet and they decide the policy direction that the country is going in, whether it's environmental policy or whether it has to do with trade, transportation, health policy. And then laws are drafted, and then the laws have to pass through the parliament. So they first go to the House of Assembly, and once passed in the House of Assembly, typically the Senate is the final stop before something can officially become law. But the Senate does have the power to make changes and so on if deemed fit. So I'm basically a lawmaker. That's what senators do. We make laws. Yes.
So important. Is it hard for you? Is it challenging in your role?
So it's something that I do enjoy. My profession, my background is in medicine and not in law. There are attorneys at law in the chamber, but what I found is that there is a variety of interests and expertise in the house. The challenge, I would say, is that because it is not a full-time job, so basically what happens is I have a full-time career outside of Parliament. I'm a doctor full-time. Now I need to carve time out to make sure that I could give the rightly deserved attention to the laws that are going to be passed or debated or voted on in the House. I think the hardest thing is making sure that I can carve out the time to properly review, and where I don't have the expertise that I can reach out to an expert in the field, get opinions, and just so that I can, when I rise to speak, that I'm speaking from a well-informed place and that my vote is appropriate.
Okay.
So it's more once again, back to the matter of time and having other things to juggle. There are other jurisdictions that have full-time appointed senators who have a staff and who have a research assistant, a personal assistant, and all of those supporting persons behind them. Our system doesn't really lend itself to that. So imagine having a full-time job and then having to make laws as well.
That's a lot.
And yeah, so it's just a time juggle. But what I will say is that we have the Senate is where I would say where the action is. It's where the independent and the opposition voices sit.
There's never a boring
There
moment
is
there.
never a dull moment in the Senate. And I will say, in spite of however things go down on the floor, we really enjoy each other's camaraderies. Everyone is quite cordial with each other. But, when it comes to debate, it can get very, very,
It's
very
heated.
spicy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it. This is actually my 6th year, and you would have met me when I was newly appointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was new.
Everything was new. So it's like a full circle moment.
So when you were first selected and when you got in, was there any expectations that you had that didn't exist when you got in?
I don't think I really had expectations.
Okay.
Because it wasn't something that I was looking for necessarily.
Okay.
As I just mentioned, we are all appointed and selected.
Yeah.
It's not something that I put myself forward for in the way that an MP would put themselves forward for. So in a sense, I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I was overwhelmed with gratitude.
Okay.
I will say what I enjoy is being a part of a very high energy and dynamic team. And as much as I feel busy and overwhelmed, I look at the people around me and I say, wow.
Right.
It is quite energizing and inspiring working around people who are very, very driven and very hardworking.
Okay.
You can't help but catch a drift.
Right.
When you're in a space like that. So in a sense, I feel like the more that I do, sometimes the more I feel like I can do.
Okay.
And it's kind of spawned other things, which is kind of why Ladybox popped up at the time that it did. So, Ladybox, sorry to segue into this.
No, that's fine. That's good.
So-
'Cause I wanted to ask you tell me a little bit about Ladybox and what that really
Right. So, Ladybox was founded on International Women's Day in 2021.
Okay.
And it's funny because, I have a great, supportive, amazing group of girlfriends. Most of them are older than me. Some are like mothers, mentors, and, we enjoy each other's company. But I had an idea coming out of the first set of lockdowns that we had in 2021. Those were the lockdowns where like the supermarkets were closed and stuff. And I realized there were so many groups that were packing food hampers and that the personal care needs of women specifically. And for me, having a young child at that time, knowing how many Pampers I was going through, how many tins of formula I was going through, and the cost associated with that, I was saying, there's so many people who've been displaced, unemployed because of, obviously a lot of businesses were impacted, especially tourism workers. So I said, girls, for Women's Day this year, instead of doing the things we normally do, let's put some items together and try to coordinate with organizations that work directly with women and families and try to get these items out, And it was funny because at the time I was working directly with COVID, I was actually involved in the Seek and Save program with the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
And we were going door to door doing COVID testing in communities at the time because we were trying to minimize the spread of COVID. That was at the time when everybody was still in lockdown. But I remember one of the distribution centers was open for some of the items. I don't think I can call names, but I literally told one of my colleagues on Seek and Save, I think I want to go and buy some Pampers and pads and stuff and just, I feel I want to start this thing, you know? And in my scrubs, literally just went straight down and spent some money and I put it in my group chat. I said, girls, I had this idea and it was bugging me for weeks, but I just went down to this distribution center and I bought this stuff. And, you know, if y'all want to put together, if you have family members who want to contribute, you know, I think we should try to do something special for Women's Day. And we were initially, I reached out to my girlfriend, Dr. Daisley from Family Planning at the time. She was their clinical director at the time. And I told her, you know, we want to make family planning the beneficiary of this donation. And we're aiming at the time to do 50 packages. We ended up doing just about 350.
Oh, wow.
And we coordinated that in about 4 days.
You went from 50 to
it just mushroomed because once the call went out, the momentum just built. And within 3-4 days, it just became something way greater. So then we ended up donating at the time to family planning, Jabez House, the homeless shelter, the shelter for abused women. It just really went like, it just completely grew from there. And then soon after Women's Day, we went straight into the ashfall. I don't know if you remember around that time.
Yep.
That was around the time that the lockdown was supposed to be lifted.
And people were to go back outside again.
We were just getting ready to go back outside and then the ashfall hit. So I was like, well, just about a month ago, we were able to mobilize all this good stuff for local families. Why don't we send some stuff to St. Vincent? Send the call out again. We sent 2 shipments, like 2 truckfuls of formula, Pampers, baby wipes, pads, tampons, soap, body wash, combs and brushes, toothpaste, toothbrushes, down to St. Vincent through there. And that was all facilitated through their and distributed through their Family Planning Association.
Okay.
So it really, at the time it was pretty amazing how it really...
It's crazy how it just snowballed into that.
It did. And one of the things I learned through that experience was you can start where you are, because I think I spent maybe $700 or $800. And I was willing to pack and donate those few items. But once you start making the moves, it's amazing. It's like the energy just moves through the people around you by osmosis, and everybody just caught it. And it was just amazing to witness. And yeah, really proud of Lady Box. Actually have a drive coming up for Women's Day again. So excited to keep it going.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
I wish you luck with that. So in the last interview, you said you had some complications with the pregnancy. Do you mind expanding on that?
Right. So I didn't have complications with the pregnancy with my son, but I was a recurrent miscarrier, which by definition means that I had 3 consecutive miscarriages before I had a successful delivery. Yes. So those happened during my years working in the hospital, which is a very fast-paced, dynamic, high-stress environment. I don't have the science to back it up, but I believe that the stress, the physical and mental stress that I was under at the time contributed to that, which in part led to me deciding to move away from hospital work. It was a great training ground. I love my work. I love my patients. But it just was breaking my body. And, you know, having a family was really, really important for us. So,
yeah. I just want to say, men, you got to give the women grace. We do not have to go through a fraction of what women go through.
Yeah. And a lot of women go through things that they will never talk about.
Yeah.
And that's the other part of it. So we tend to show up and we smile and we do what we have to do, because I feel like in a lot of ways, the minute that we don't or can't, everything starts to fall apart. You know, we have to show up. I think about the role that my mom played in our family, that I play in my family. And regardless of what we're going through, we just keep going because we have to. Yeah.
Heavy.
It's the truth.
Some heavy stuff.
Real talk.
So I'm going to keep referring to the last interview. You spoke about spirituality and how that have helped you. Are you still spiritual?
Oh, definitely. I feel like, as with all things, our spiritual journeys, go through ups and downs. There are moments where you don't feel as close, and then there are moments where you draw closer. And this is definitely one of those moments where I think God is showing up for me in a very real way and a very new way. And what I'm realizing is that when you're a child of God, like, he really wants our full attention. And sometimes when we're distracted and, we lose focus and we're deviating from the path that he wants us to be on, because I do believe that there's like a divine calling that all of us have, or a divine mission that we all have. And sometimes there are things that pull us away from our purpose and from that calling. And if you start to stray too far from that path, sometimes God, he does some pretty dramatic things to get you back on track.
I think it's like a parent, like sometimes a parent is like, if you're being hard here, just drag you by your ears
Like,
somewhere. You want to hear.
You going to listen now? Are you going to listen now?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
come.
yeah.
I can work with you now. I have your attention finally. All right, I could work with you now. I can now do some things.
Yeah.
So I think that's the point where I'm at. Definitely have been through some stuff recently that has been really, really tough. Made me examine life, made me examine the people around me. But I have to say, all in all, my faith is probably what has kept me here. Because the truth is, when you look at some situations with a physical lens and with our own human understanding, you look at it and say, boy, should I continue on this path? Or like, to be honest, after what I've been through recently, it's amazing that I could still show up here and function, because anyone who I've shared with my experience, they've just been like, wow. But all in all, I feel more aligned with my purpose now than I was months ago.
Okay.
Because I started my own practice. I was building that out, and I allowed someone to come alongside and to cause me to come away from my original plan. And in a sense, now getting back on track and reestablishing and coming up with new ideas, because the truth is the blueprint is here.
Yeah.
And here.
Right.
So the ideas, the vision are mine. And I really feel like there's something that I have to do and that God has put me here to do. And in allowing myself to become distracted and to deviate from that path, God, in a sense, has pulled me back to say, okay, now let's get back to basics and let's get back to what I called you to do.
Right.
So now I have your attention. We're going to do something new. And we're going to do it my way this time. And I have been listening, and I have to say God has been doing some miraculous stuff. And I'm hoping that I can circle back when it's all out in the open to tell you that testimony.
Yes.
But my faith, I feel like is what has kept me, and I feel closer to God now than I have in a very, very long time.
Yeah. And I usually say, I recently kind of learned the hard way as well. We always try to do things our own way, but we have to, again, don't lean on our own understanding. I kind of like ask him for guidance, ask him how to manage the situation.
Let God lead.
Yes.
And that has been, from the start of the year, that has been my prayer. God, lead.
Yeah.
If it's not from you, I don't want it.
When we try to do it ourselves, we make a mess.
Yeah, every time, every single time. And we think that we know better because of the things that we see around us. And it makes sense. It sounds logical, you know, but ultimately, you remember when that story of the Israelites, the promised land was like there.
Yeah.
And they spent 40 years
What was going to take
walking
11
around.
days?
Yeah. Walking around a mountain over and over and not making it to the destination in a timely manner because they were trying to do it their way.
And we do that still.
We do that
right
still.
now.
And that's the thing. I think when you go through the hard stuff, you have to come to a point of surrender.
Yeah.
That's what the hard stuff does. It brings you to your knees. It humbles you. And it makes you your own ideas, your own plans, your own ways. You have to just submit everything to God and say, Lord, Jesus, take the wheel, literally.
Literally.
Take the wheel, because sis does not know what she's doing. And I have to say, since the start of the year, definitely, I feel like I've really recommitted my life to God. And I've been really seeing him show up in a very, very special way in my life and in my family's life. And I feel really blessed, really excited, you know, still have moments in between where you're like, wow, this is hard, but we can do hard things.
What would you say to a person who would have been feeling a little distant from God? Like, they want to have that relationship, they want to have that spirituality and feel grounded like how you are and the practices that you have been put in there. Like, what would you say to the person who would tell you, well, I feel a little distant, I don't know how to talk to God?
Well, for me, I would say the journey is a personal one. You could grow up in a Christian household. You could go to a church and still feel distant from God. What I've discovered is that the relationship with God is definitely a personal one. And I can't tell you what that journey looks like for you. But for me, what I committed to doing from the start of the year was to literally put God first in a very literal way. So before I do anything else, because my typical morning routine would be, I got things to do. Let me write my to-do list. I got to pack my son's lunch. I got to get through the door by 6:30 or 6:45, you know, whatever the case is. But when you start your day like that, I actually found that it tends to be a bit more chaotic than it needs to be.
Okay.
So what I've done is to get quiet with God first. So even if it means getting up a half hour earlier and committing at least 15 minutes to a half hour to reading a scripture, reading a verse, meditating on it, and spending some time in prayer.
Right.
And just starting every day like that, which is what I've done from the start of 2024. My days feel way more productive. I feel much happier than I have been in months.
Yeah.
It's been life-changing, and it's been a very, very personal thing for me. I still haven't decided where I want to attend service.
Right.
My mom has been trying to encourage me to go back to church. That's important for her. But in building out my own relationship with God, I've realized I grew up in church, but I feel closer to God now than at any other point in my life where I was attending church religiously. So
it feels more personal.
It
now,
feels
not
more
just
personal.
We're not just
And
religious.
I simply have chosen to make God a priority and to start my day with God and to end my day with God.
Okay.
And just let him take control of the day. And I found I'm having better days for the most part. And then a better day turned into a better week turned into a better month. And I'm hoping that I have a better year overall. And, you know, in a sense, just step by step, day by day. And don't be too hard on yourself if you feel like you have a moment where you slip or anything. I think that's one of the things when you make a mistake, you get angry, you say something you shouldn't have said, and then you feel like you've lost the plot.
Yeah.
And that's why we're living in this period of grace where forgiveness exists and where healing exists and where, you know, we can always come back, because that's the beauty of being children of a loving, gracious God.
Preach.
Preach.
So
Yes.
you would say that we should be intentional about, you know, our relationship with God. And, you know, sometimes the days get crazy and, you know, you wake up late or you're just thinking about the next thing on your task list. And we always put God last. Or we only go to him when we need something.
If there's a crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to be intentional and put it into our routines. And, you know, not every single day you can feel like praying or having a conversation, but it's necessary to.
I actually heard a simple quote on a podcast. She said, you have to make God your first priority and not your last resort.
Right.
And I really feel I held on to that in a very literal way because I feel like in the past, my relationship with God was very much using God as a God of last resort and not putting him first. And I mean, as much as I sit here and I can talk to you about my faith, it's still very personal for me. I'm not perfect.
No one.
We all mess up. I will still drop the occasional F-bomb if you get on my nerves. I'm still very human, but I also know that I serve a very, very gracious God. And just like everybody else, you know, because I think when you're a public figure, you know, you're parliamentarian, you're a doctor, you're all the things that people see on paper, people forget that you're a human being.
Yes.
You know, you're not a caricature. You're not, you're not fake. You're not plastic. You're a real person with a beating heart and you feel things just like everybody else does. And yeah, I think sometimes the idea that politicians, parliamentarians, public figures are infallible is definitely not true. And I think we kind of need to let go of that. But I mean, I think at the same time, a lot of us in public life haven't allowed people in to our real lives. Yeah. So we put certain things out there and people only get to know us on that level, on the surface. So they see the speeches or they might see the community service but they don't know who we really are, which is why, you know, I'm actually happy to have a conversation with you. Yes. One of my real actual friends. But just so people understand, you know, we're real people with real feelings and we make mistakes and, you know.
And you learn from it.
And we learn from them and you can share. And hopefully that's the thing too, using the platform that you have to do something positive, uplifting that brings other people along. That's always been one of my things. Wherever I've had an opportunity, I've tried to open the door for other people and not leave people behind. I feel like in this recent season, I've learned you can't bring everyone to sit at your table. Sometimes people want the whole table for themselves. And but that shouldn't stop us from operating out of love and in a way that we normally would. As hard as it can be, what I'm really trying not to do is to not trust or not to continue to bring people along because I went through a bad situation with former friends.
You don't want to harden your heart.
You can't, because I think that's what the enemy wants, for you to become hardened and bitter and closed off and stop loving. And
you're closing off your superpower because
that's the thing.
Power.
Love is a power, and generosity is a power. Kindness is a power. So what I had to learn, because I think initially during the darkest parts of what I went through last year, when you start to sink into almost despair, the immediate reaction is to close yourself off, to wall yourself off, and to keep people out. And no one wins. You don't win in that situation. People who could potentially benefit from your gifts won't benefit if you close yourself off. And only now in this season, now I can say that I'm learning and healing. I'm realizing, no, I can't change me. I have to continue to give. I have to continue to open doors where I can open doors and to share. And community has always been important. I mean, I look at back in my grandmother's time, when everybody grew up poor together. You know, you didn't have bread for the children, or you didn't have bananas or milk, and you go across and ask your neighbor. My grandmother had a neighbor called Sister Vaughn's who helped her deliver babies and all kinds of stuff.
Sister Vaughn's?
Sister Vaughn's. She's not alive anymore. Big up, Sister Vaughn's.
Big up.
But community is how we have always survived.
Yes.
And you can't close yourself off from community. And I think initially I had started to sink into this space where I guess the reaction after you've been hurt is to kind of wall yourself off.
Yeah.
Shut people out to protect yourself.
Also wants that too.
Yeah.
He wants us to isolate.
Yeah. But what you find in that space is that when you're isolated, you just sink deeper and deeper into despair, and you can't grow when you're walled off. You can't give when you're walled off. So what I've had to do gradually is, I guess, a shift in my perspective happened through my Bible reading, especially through listening to sermons and podcasts and kind of building my own spirit up. And then from there, gradually realizing, no, Crystal, you actually didn't do anything wrong in this situation. Mm-hmm. Would you have done anything differently? No. Mm-hmm. So why are you doing this to yourself? Right. And actually one of my really good friends, she gave me some tough love at the end of last year. She said, Crystal, at this point, the only person holding you back is you. And, you know, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wow, girl, that was rough, but you're right. And yeah, so bit by bit, momentum is gaining, and yeah, I'm looking forward to reestablishing, found a new location, renovations underway, plans are coming together almost in a seamless way.
Okay.
The vision is...
This is your clinic?
My new clinic.
Okay.
I had my own business, and someone came alongside basically with an assurance that they could help me to build out this thing into something greater, something like the clinic of my dreams. And I allowed myself to go down a path where I trusted that person more than I trusted myself or even God, which is probably why God mashed up the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
So
it wasn't part of the plan.
It wasn't a part of God's plan, I would say. So I'm not in that space anymore, and I am reestablishing my own clinic again. Okay,
that's good to hear. So I know in 2019 you were really into journaling. Are you still journaling?
I don't have time to journal. I wish I could, but I will say I've invested in a good planner. So Leah Marvel, who you would probably know, she has this Be Do Become planner. I just picked mine up last week, which is a little late considering it's the middle of February. But that is as close as journaling as I'll get to for right now.
Okay.
But journaling takes time, and time is something I don't have a whole lot of.
Because I remember you told me it used to really help you. So
yes.
I wanted to ask you, how is it serving you now?
Yeah, I don't journal anymore. Kind of wish I did. I think maybe the baby kind of threw that out the window. Once you get a kid, it's like life just becomes extremely different. Yeah.
You also used to vision board. You had a vision board before. Have you been into all that still or no?
The vision board resides up here now.
Right. Okay.
It's just, I don't have,
Okay. That's fair. Think new things come in.
The vision resides here and here. But you know, the word does say to write it down.
Yes.
I do still every day write down what my plan for that day looks like. The things that I want to do, the things that I need to do. So that's still an important part of it. I find if you don't write it down, it usually doesn't get done. Yeah. And I mean, literally not saving it in your notes app on your phone, like actually writing it down physically. It might seem old school, but I still find that's the best way to keep myself accountable to me to get things done. So I might not be able to sit down and write a full, I felt this way today and I had these emotions and these are my thoughts on what I want the future to look like. But at least on a daily basis, sitting down, writing out my to-do lists and any extra things that I may want to squeeze in.
I have like 6 books right now in my bag.
Active.
I could even show you. There's just different things. It's just with different concepts and whatever that I just keep writing. I find like in my phone, is too much distractions in your phone, first of all. So if you go in and you want to type something, notifications coming, and then you forget, and then and your attention is gone to something else.
You end up texting or responding to an email or something, and then never getting back to it.
You never remember what you took out your phone for.
Yep.
So I use my books, and then I also read that there's a connection that happens when you write, because the brain and the muscle and the hand, and I don't know exactly how the science work, but there's a connection that really helps you to really nail it in when you actually write your intentions down.
It is also biblical, because I think it's a chapter in Habakkuk,
right,
that talks about write the vision down and make it plain.
Wow.
Write it down, make it plain. So it is also consistent with the biblical principle. Write it down.
Yes.
That's when stuff actually starts to happen. I guess, some people believe in manifesting, like when you actually put it out there and things start to unfold. And I think a part of it too is there's a level of faith involved in writing a plan down. You might not have the full roadmap. You might not know how you're fully going to get there, but I plan to accomplish X or Y today, this week, by next month, by the next 6 months. There's something special about writing it down. And I kind of think that it's almost like a universal principle where, we
believe that.
We as Bible believers, we're going to say it's a biblical principle.
Yeah.
People in the New Age movement, they'll say this is manifesting.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that we all experience, where we realize once we put it out there, it starts to come into place,
Right.
And actually something I was listening to yesterday was talking about the power of our words, and why, even if you have a negative thought, the worst thing you could do is to put it into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So our plans and the positive stuff that we want to unfold, those are the things that we have to speak. You have to speak life and speak health and write the plans down.
And I just want people to know that a lot of these things, like what people might practice in New Age, is like, it's kind of stuff that's taken from the Bible though.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not, a lot of these stuff is not new, but the practices are there. The wisdom and everything was in the Bible.
Yeah, because the truth is, even if you think about it, we grew up hearing about the golden rule, do unto others as you'll have them do unto you.
Correct.
Then in Hinduism, you have dharma and karma. So I think, as I called it, a universal principle is something where people generally understand, if you do good, good comes to you. If you, speak life, speak health, it comes to you.
Correct.
Yeah, so there's definitely something to it.
So having said all that, are you going to start by journaling?
I feel convicted, and I think I have to go buy a journal when I leave the studio. No doubt. I need to get back to it.
But you have your the one from Leah Marvel though.
Yeah, I have the Be Do Become Planner. Okay. I got it. I picked it up on Thursday and I've started it. And that is like a planner extraordinaire, because it does make you reflect and introspect. It, it helps you to plan ahead. So in a sense, it's like journaling, but more structured. So yeah, kind of walks you through your plans. So
okay, have you been getting like support? Have you been feeling support with all the ventures you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, the most supportive unit I have is my family.
Okay.
My husband, my parents, my brother, my sister. Then I have an amazing group of friends as well. Most of the women around me are older than me. I don't know if that's why the relationships are so strong, but I guess the beauty about those friendships, these are women in their mid to late 40s. They've been through some stuff, and they are honest. They level with me. They support me, yes, but not to every fault. They know when to say, Crystal, you need to pull up stumps. Crystal, I don't like what you said or did there. And those are the kind of friendships that I think are the friendships that last and stand the test of time, where, you can do or say hard things, but in love. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you can receive that understanding that the advice is coming from a place of love. I don't want to be blindly supported, because there's moments where people can be off track and their friends are fully backing them in nonsense, to be frank. Right. And I will say these are mature friendships I've been lucky to have from my teens or early 20s. And yeah, some really strong, inspiring women. And yeah, I will also say that I have had a couple of friendships that have gone by the wayside. And, you know, even one friendship that I feel towards the beginning of this year, I felt convicted about. I had some friends over at the start of the year, and I said a very simple prayer because in this season, I feel so protective of my space, of my mind, of my heart. And I basically said, before I let anybody into my house, I said, Lord, anyone who doesn't have my best interests at heart, don't let them cross the threshold of my doorstep. And I had felt convicted about this one friendship for a while, although it's been a long-standing friendship. And by the time I got out of the shower where I said the prayer, the person was calling to tell me that they couldn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you. And
that's evidence right there.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, it was just a relationship that was very, very, very draining, and one where I felt like, as loving, as supportive, and as honest as I was trying to be as a friend, sometimes people just can't receive what you're saying in a certain way. And we're having the same conversations. And I actually very frankly told the person, because they tried to engage me in a conversation about another mutual friend. And I told them, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
If you're having an issue with that person, you need to have a conversation with them, just like I would expect you, if you're having an issue with me, to speak with me about it. Mm-hmm. I would put this in a box, and I told her this directly. I would put this in a box that I would call a small conversation. And I said, I don't have time for small conversations. So I'm going to put this relationship on pause for now. I said, I still love you. But when you're ready to have a bigger conversation, reach out to me again. And I just left it there.
How was that taken?
Not well. Right. But I think I am in a space right now where, like I said, I just feel very, very protective of my heart, of my mental health. I have a lot to do. I'm looking after someone with special needs. Yeah. There are lots of calls on my time and my energy. And if there's advice you need, if you want to talk about how to get a charity started, if you need true emotional support, I am there for you 150%. Mm-hmm. I am not engaging in small talk about other people. I am not. It's a waste of my time. Is a waste of yours. I'm a big woman and I don't have time for it. So I meant it from the best place possible. And I think I just had to level with them in that way because it was happening over and over. And it's just like, I can't do this.
Right.
I don't have the time or the energy or the inclination.
Yeah. And
to
you
do
feel
this.
like it could actually like drain your energy.
Yeah.
Just listening.
It's not good. I said, it's not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think real friends should be able to have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say that, you know, if somebody have a problem with me, I would like them to come to me.
Oh, yeah.
I just be real. Just
the
instead
worst
of like
thing,
going behind my back, and because nobody went in there.
The worst thing is being the last to know, because inevitably they're talking to other people. And it's so funny. I saw a quote this morning. It basically said, when you engage in conversations like that with people, the minute that you get up from the table, you become the conversation. So
yeah,
it's a new year.
But I had a saying, who brings is also carry. Or
it's
like
true.
That.
So yeah, in this season where God is doing something new, something major, we're not taking that energy with us at all. So yeah.
Okay. So before we wrap, I just want to touch a little bit about the entrepreneurship side of things really quickly. I want to know, what was the inspiration behind your business and how you got started?
Okay. So how I got my start in So my practice is primarily a general practice with a strong focus on aesthetic medicine, which basically means I do Botox and fillers and all these amazing things. But more recently, I also certified as a nutrition coach, a nutrition and wellness coach.
Congrats on that.
So that's because, well, I've been a doctor for a lot of years, roughly 15 years, but I feel like the way that we were educated in medical school was very much like, this is the pathology and this is what you prescribe. And in this dispensation, patients are empowered. Patients have access to information. They're asking questions. And overwhelmingly, if there is a natural or a wellness or a more holistic way to go about managing a condition, that's the option patients want to take. So I felt like it was time for me to retool and to kind of level up, you know,
Got it.
as far as the health and wellness aspects of my practice go. So that is really going to be a part of the new direction we're going in. A bigger focus on nutrition and wellness and holistic wellness. And also I love aesthetics because my background was in ophthalmic surgery. So I spent 7 years in the hospital doing pterygium surgery, cataract surgery. So upper face, head and neck, that's where my hands have gotten their foundation, you know, operating under a microscope, doing everything at a microscope. That's where I worked. And when I resigned from the hospital for the reasons that I told you and the impact it was having on my health, I had kind of had to sit with myself once again, get quiet and think of, now, how can I apply my skill set in this field of microscopic surgery in a way where everything that I did over 7 years doesn't go to waste? And I thought, well, you know, I really enjoy beautification and cosmetic things myself. Maybe I could do this for other people. And it's something that I'm actually really skilled at. I tell people I would do it for free. I enjoy it so much because there's a level of gratification that comes from, let's say, treating some person who has really bad acne, lots of dark marks, or, you know, big cysts on their face. And then when you treat that condition, you feel like you see a different person within a few weeks. Or, you know, a mom of 3 or mom of 4 who has spent years looking after her kids and feels like she's neglected herself. And she comes and says, I feel so tired, or I look so tired. Is there anything that I can do? And you can do a filler procedure that leaves her looking 5 or 10 years younger, instantly refreshed. So for me, I really love the work. I've been able to utilize skills that I had from my ophthalmic surgery days. I had the opportunity to train at the highest levels. So 2 years on and off, going to London to ultimately get a fellowship in it, which is basically the highest level that you can qualify in. I actually was in London last week, interestingly, just reconnected with my mentors and my peers, and just kind of re-immersing as I prepare to reopen and get back on my feet after not working for a few months. So yeah, that's what I do. But we're doing things in a different way. I can't spill all the beans, but I'm going to have you at the opening for sure.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that. I just want to know too as well, like, how do you get your brain to kind of make everything work in harmony, where there's the Senate and then there's your doctor work and all these other things, like, because it's very different.
Yes, very, very different stuff. So what I try to do, I know Senate typically will be held on a Wednesday, and I will typically have to block my Wednesdays off for sure, but also I'll need to save a couple of half days in between there to make sure that I have time to prepare my speeches and to do my research. So definitely on a Tuesday, do not call me. Do not message me. You will not get a response, because Tuesdays are definitely a day, as I'm trying to prepare for Senate, that I try to unplug. I don't want to hear or see anybody on a Tuesday. So for me, it's just organizing my time in a way that I know, well, I'm dedicating this time for this or that. And that's the only way. Time management.
So time management is important for you.
Is critical, is the only way. And obviously for my son, there's certain things that he enjoys. He likes going to the park. He likes going to the beach. So wherever I can, I try to keep those carve-outs safe. We go for our morning walks. try to be home in time for bedtime. He loves story time and snuggling up and all those things. So although we have a nanny to assist, it's still important that we do certain things ourselves.
To be present
Still have to be. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you talk about your mentor. So you have, how many mentors you have?
Ooh, well, there's mentors for each of these spheres that I operate in. So in public life, I would say my mentor would be Liz Thompson.
Okay.
It's so funny. I have a story about her. So she was my MP when I was growing up. My parents were her constituents. And it's so funny. We were this was the 90s. So we were like 7 or 8 when the first lighting ceremony happened.
Okay.
So this was like the mid-90s. And she happened to be canvassing in the area that day. And she came by my parents' house and she saw my sister and I. And she literally said, "Oh my gosh, these twins are so cute. I want to take them with me as my guests to the lighting ceremony."
Really?
So as 2 little girls, we were escorted. She picked us up. She said she would come back. She came back. She put us in her car. A Mazda Lantis, I never forgot. She drove us down to where the ceremony was happening, and we sat front and center with her as her guest for this thing. So it's funny, she had long forgotten that story, and that's the thing with being in those roles. You know, you meet people every day and you forget.
So the seed was planted then.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I reminded her of that kindness that she showed to me and my sister when we were little, and she couldn't remember. But it's something that Ruth and I never forgot, because we were like, wow, like that was our first experience, like being in that space. You know, she picked us up, she took us, we sat with her, and she took us back home safely. And so it's interesting now, like a full circle moment, being in the Senate with her. She's the deputy president, and to this day, she's still always with a word of encouragement. She listens to my speeches. This is how it could have been better. You know, you could look at it from this angle too. So I feel really blessed to be able to serve alongside someone who has as much experience. You know, she's been in Parliament. This is how many terms in Parliament. Plus, she's worked at the UN. You know, she's a real powerhouse and a real feminist. Like, truly, truly supportive. Wants to see you win. Will mobilize and put things behind you to make sure that you have the support, the encouragement, the advice, and the criticism where necessary, because she wants me to be better. So she's my mentor in public life. Professionally, I have a couple. There's so many people that I admire and respect here. Dr. Clive Gibbons. So he got me into ophthalmology. He's probably the brightest human being I know. He's like a human computer, kind of like Dr. House. Like, he's a diagnostician extraordinaire. So if you have a weird and a wonderful case that nobody can pinpoint, he's the man for the job.
Easy guy.
I actually have not spoken to him in a few years, and I don't know if he will watch Gems from Friends.
This is a reason for him to watch it now.
He's probably in his 80s, but you've reminded me, and I will reach out to him. But he's had such a tremendous impact on my career. And then I also have other people in just regular life that I look up to and who I admire, who have showed up for me in very, very real ways through the hard stuff. You know, it's easy for people to be around you when it looks like you're flying high, but when you kind of hit a rough patch, and that's when people start to fall away, you know? And I think that's when you really, when God really reveals who you can trust and who you can take forward with you, when he takes you
that's the cleansing process.
Oh, the cleansing process for sure. And when he shows you who you're going to be taking with you as you move forward, as he leads. So just in daily life, I have a wonderful friend, Kelly, who showed up for me in a lot of very, very real ways through the hardest stuff, prayed with me, cried with me. I don't know if you can call that a mentor, but just as a friend, just somebody I admire the depth of the friendship that we shared. And that's the thing with hard stuff too. You get to know people on a deeper level, and you get to find out what they're really made of. Some people are just there for the
show,
for the come up, you know? So, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty and you're really in a place where you got to figure some heavy stuff out, you know? So I think this season has been a good one for me, because in a lot of ways, people would assume based on how I appear that, oh, she has everything made, she has everything set, she married and her husband does this and she got that and her son does go to school there and she's where it is. You know how Bajans can be. But under all of that is a very, very real person who deals with real shit.
Yeah.
Real hard stuff, just like everybody else deals with, who has real feelings and who has to navigate life just like everybody else has to.
Yeah.
And who has to learn lessons like everybody else has to. So
I'm glad you said that, because it just came to me that, you know, some people could be, and going back to your point, some people could look at you on the surface and see, okay, you're well put together. And then they'll then be watching this and then they think something is wrong with them. They're feeling at life. What is happening? Why they can't get it done this way or that way. But I think it's important for them to hear real life. Like that stuff is the highlights.
mm-hmm.
What you see is what is chosen to be put out there. And, you know, but there's stuff happening behind the scenes that are just as bad as what everybody else is going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And regardless of what anybody chooses to wear or not wear, that stuff doesn't define them as a person. And the truth is, I have a loving, generous sister.
Right.
I've also been a doctor for 15 years, you know, and, you know, a lot of these things you accumulate over time. I might buy one item a year and put down. I wear the same handbag for 8 or 9 years now.
Right.
You know, but people would look and judge and all these things.
But you don't know how people get things, so you can't watch people things.
Which is true. You can't.
You can't watch people things.
You can't. But I'm just saying, regardless of what anybody chooses to wear or not to wear, that's not who they are. And what I want everybody to try to do in this season is just get to know people for who they really are. Mm-hmm. And I think for us who are in public life, give people the chance to get to know us.
So I want to land the plane soon.
Let's land the plane.
Going back to the last interview.
Yes.
You said that because we were talking about mentors, and you said that you were open to yourself being a mentor, and you would like if someone could join you and maybe see what's a day in a life of Crystal Haynes.
Ooh.
Dr. Crystal Haynes. They could join you in Parliament. I don't know. Can we put out there?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, so many people have reached out and I've actually brought along with me as guests to Parliament.
Okay, cool.
So
you live up to your word.
Over the years, yes, quite a few have come as guests to Parliament and have been able to sit in the gallery and to see firsthand what it's like and all of that. During COVID, we weren't allowed guests.
Okay.
So I have not done anything since then, but maybe it's high time to throw that invitation out there.
Yeah. Just send a DM.
Yeah, like drop me DMs. Matthews or mine, you know.
All right. So lastly, this is something I'm introducing in a new way because it's a new season and because it's you. I started with you. I want you to drop a gem for my next guest, but we don't know. My co-producer is happy about that. Just kind of come up with this. I want you to drop a gem for the next guest. We don't know who it is, but I just want you to share something that's on your heart to share. Something that you would have learned throughout these years or even just recently.
Yeah. So I will say we all go through our tough moments. Mm-hmm. Moments where we feel like we're going through an existential crisis and we start to question everything around us. My gem would be that in those times, that's where you discover the most about yourself. And if you have a plan and if you've been on a path, don't allow that trauma, that challenge to overcome you, overwhelm you, or to allow you to give up on your dream. Don't give up on your dream. I actually think that what I'm learning is that coming out of this, I feel like I'm going to be better. It's funny, I can't see the full thing yet, but I have this confidence, this faith that I am going to be better for everything that I've been through. So I will tell the person who's coming next, you will be better for everything that you may be going through, whatever it is, whether it's something that you've shared or whether it's something you've chosen not to share. You will come out better for it. And don't ever let that moment, that challenge overwhelm you to the point where you feel like you can't continue to commit to the dream that you have. And that's it.
You don't have your headphones on, so you will be a big mistake. I just give you the applause and the gem effect. Well, Crystal, thank you for coming again. Thank you. This has been insightful. And you have raised the bar.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I'm excited to see the finished products.
You will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, you and your team.
And that's a wrap.